Hi, Pierre.
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm
Good
Anindita.
to meet you. Yeah. Um, well, life has been like, world before Corona and world after Corona, almost like life in the time of Corona and life after the time of Corona. It's literally like that. It's been tough for all of us. Switzerland, India,
True.
all over the world. So I wouldn't, since we have a little time, I'll try to hear more from you. Is
Yes,
We all have found as artists, it was difficult because our art was challenged because priority was how do we survive? How do we survive this virus? How do we live? How do we remain healthy? But at the same time, it was because we had art to, keep the spirit alive. It keeps something alive beyond the need to survive. So how was it for you? How did you
yes,
keep art alive, and how did art keep you alive?
yes. Well, thank you I'm sure that between Calcutta, Liguria, and Switzerland, the pandemic has been lived very differently. I've I've got to admit that in Switzerland we were a little bit luckier maybe than elsewhere because the restriction we had were not so strong. We were not forced to stay home. It was what they called a semi-lockdown. So actually,
True.
for instance, as far as I'm concerned, I during the pandemic I directed two TV series, one in 2020 and one in 2021. So I was very lucky and I was very privileged. But as far as I'm concerned, life kind of went on as before, just that we were wearing masks and we were, washing our hands every hours, and that the process of making films was naturally a bit different than it used to. But life didn't stop, so I was very lucky that I was very busy during these 2 years of pandemic. I kind of worked throughout. I did two TV series, so it was actually very hard. And but for sure, spiritually, that was very interesting because you ask, the situation ask a lot of questions, and I was, with my family at home. I spent a lot of time with my kids because my kids were not going to school. The school were closed, and that was nice. Sometimes it was also very hard because it's hard to work with your two children at home. They always want something from you, but we spend more time together, and that was actually, in retrospect, something which was very nice.
Yeah, I know. In India, it was very different. We had a complete lockdown between March 2020 and like for 3 months, complete lockdown. Even the railways, everything was shut down. The airports, there was no transport, no, nothing. The government offices, everything. It was a complete lockdown, and that was the first wave. And again in 2021, we had the second wave, which it was the first wave. We lost a lot of elderly people, but it was happening to someone else. The second wave, which happened in 2021, March and April and May, I personally, we lost a lot of friends, family members. It's difficult to keep your art alive, because
Yeah,
True.
I think in month of May, 1 week consecutively, I lost 3 people in the same week. Wednesday, I
wow.
lost a friend. Thursday, I lost a family member. And Friday, I lost a friend. So, yeah, you are very lucky that you were not so badly hit and you could live
Yes.
a much more relaxed life. Yes. Because then
Yeah,
cinema
Nita, I'm
itself,
really sorry to hear all these stories. I mean, obviously we know it was terrible, and there's been many people died throughout the world, and lots of family were hurt and hit. And yeah, that's horrible. I mean, it was a really tough time. But fortunately, in Switzerland also
Yeah.
there was a lot of people. My granny, she's 97 years old. She contracted corona and she was for 3 months in intensive care in the hospital. But fortunately, she made it. She survived, and now she's gonna celebrate 100th anniversary very
Wow.
soon, and she's in good health. But again, she was very lucky. She made it. But yeah, I know a lot of people were not so lucky, and that was hard to watch the news and to see all these tragedies happening everywhere. In Italy as well, it was very hard. I remember,
Italy was
like in
badly
March
hit.
2020, the north of Italy was extremely hardly hit, isn't it, Davide?
Yes, it was very hard. Lockdown totally, and many people died.
But frankly speaking, your place is really lovely, because last year I was there, Liguria. I loved beach, so it was really normal, and we stay there for 10 days for summer vacation.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Even Milano also. Even Milano, nobody was. Nobody was wearing the mask. So I thought Corona has been removed from there. So yeah.
So Pierre, the most of the work that you do were for the digital platform. The
Excuse me,
cinema and
Anindita, I didn't hear what you asked.
Yeah, I was asking, the work that you did in the last 2 years of the pandemic.
Yes.
Was it mostly for the digital platform?
No, it wasn't. It was for the Swiss television and for the French television. So the first one was a TV show called Neumat, New Height in English. It's a family drama about, like a family of farmers in Switzerland.
Yeah,
the father dies at the
comedy,
beginning of the story. It's not because of Corona, but it could have been because of Corona. And then there's this farm, and all the brothers and sisters are kind of fighting against each other for the future of this farm. Some want to sell it, some want to save it. And the main character is called Michael, and he's a consultant. He has left the countryside a long time ago, and he's asked by his family to come back to save the farm, and he's going to have to choose between his career as a consultant or his family. So that was like the first project. And the second project, that's a crime thriller. It's called Off Season. It takes place up in the mountains, and it's a police investigation about a serial killer who is choosing his victim just on the border between France and Switzerland. And that was a co-production with French television. So it was two very different projects.
So even here, what happened was the cinema halls closed down. So did that happen in Switzerland?
Yeah, the cinema, I think for sure. I mean, cinema, restaurant, club, nightclubs, and many other places were closed down for a very long time. Then they reopened, but they were they limited the attendance to, I think, 30% of the normal content. And that was kind of what happened during these 2 years. Sometimes it was completely closed down, and then it was partially reopened, and then they closed it down again. Each time there was a new waves. And for sure, I think the cinema were really hit during the pandemic because, they couldn't do any business. And now the cinema are fully reopened in Switzerland. I don't know how it is in India or in Italy. And slowly, people are going back to watch film on the big screen. But of course, the attendance are nothing like 2 years ago. So there's still a little bit of catch up to be done in order for the cinema to be fully running like they were 2 years ago. How is it in India?
Well, in India, the cinema, the big industry was badly hit. But at the same time, the OTT platform, the digital platform really opened up. It was doing wonderful business, and the audience will always want to watch something, especially when you're locked in within the four walls of your house. Obviously, watching the streaming numbers go up. So the OTT platforms like Netflix, Amazon, they did excellent business, and so many more platforms came up. So nowadays, the kind of Bollywood, big budget Bollywood films, which could not open in the theaters. So they opened. They even premiered on the OTT like Amazon or Netflix.
Oh yes.
Even now they're doing that. Very recently, the cinema halls are opening up. We just had a very big budget film being released. And well, people, India is a big country with a lot of population, and people have been in imprisonment, in a way, forced imprisonment for isolation for 2 years. Now they're raring to go out. So the cinema halls but the apprehension is there because, you have one wave and you have another wave and then you have Omicron come up. You don't know which new variant is around the corner. So the apprehension is there. But
Switzerland, can you imagine, is barely 7 millions. 7 millions is ridiculous. It's probably not even the population of your town, of your city. So we are a tiny country. So it's a lot easier to control or to try to control 7 million people, who are very, very connected and live in a very small territory than when you have a population like India on such a huge country, which is almost a continent. So, of course, I think that the two situations are very hard to compare because of the scale. The scale is so different.
It's 1.38 billion.
Yeah, you see, it's 1.5 billion people. I mean, it's like vertiginous. I mean, 7 million people. It's kind of a joke in comparison.
When the lockdown happened, like everything was locked down.
Yes.
The crisis was there about the virus, but we also had the tremendous crisis of poverty thrown because people travel from villages thousands of kilometers for work, and they had no way to go back to their villages. So we had people dying, children dying on the roads, just trying to go back home. So obviously, like I said, the priorities changed. When I look at Ukraine now, I can't believe it. Like, you thought the survival, humanity would have learned that survival itself is a big challenge. And then you again suddenly have a stupid war.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. But a question: Did this COVID crisis in India change anything? Because I guess we were all not prepared for that. Switzerland was not prepared for that. Italy was not prepared for that. And then, in the first months of the pandemic, like in Switzerland, like in Europe, many people pointed at the politics, blaming them for completely badly handling the crisis. Oh, you should have known if this was coming. There was no mask. The hospital were not ready to welcome the people. There was no plan B, for pandemic. And I think like in Switzerland and I guess in Italy too, the politics did learn something. And now I think they are very aware of what should be undertaken if a pandemic would, take place one more time. How is it in India? Do you think that the mentality evolved and the politics evolved?
No, the politics didn't change.
Okay.
Politics. Maybe we artists, we have changed because we were badly shaken. We're badly shaken. Musicians, musicians were starving. A lot of artists were starving. Technicians in the film industry, because our technicians are paid on daily wages. and they were starving because there was no shooting. When
that's
like
terrible.
months of no shooting, what would they survive? Maybe they work 10 days in a month. End of the day, they take a certain amount of money, go home, and that's when they buy the rice and their essentials. That's why I said survival itself became a crisis. So many
but for
people
sure.
lost jobs. So many millions of people lost jobs. So but then again, because we are such a big country, Pierre, we only know how it has affected when elections come.
Okay.
Yeah, because the only time you put the government, you're a small country with lesser people. So your voice actually counts more. We have so many voices that it actually, you can reckon when the elections come, and then you realize what is going on in the minds of this 1.5 billion people. Otherwise, it's very difficult. We sit in cities.
I hope then that the people will go and vote and try to change something. I mean, in Switzerland, I don't know in Italy, but in Switzerland, the artists, of course, they suffered. Of course, they were out of job. Of course, many, I guess, found themselves in very precarious situation. Nevertheless, the state, the government really financially helped everybody. So everybody got a little bit of money from the government throughout the pandemic. And some people were hit more than others. But I think that in Switzerland, generally speaking, it was okay. And the culture and the people working in the cultural world were really helped by the government. So
that's so
more than
heartening
others
to hear. That's so heartening to hear that the government cares, because we artists.
I don't know, Davide, how was it in Italy? How was it for you? How was it for the people working in the cultural field?
Okay.
Thanks.
No, I think what Davide said is that the government did help the artists. I'm gonna have to leave very soon. Sorry, that was my alarm clock. But it was little amount of money, and then people had to find solution on their own. Like Davide, for instance, he gave concert, and they found ways to be able to raise a bit of money. So he says that now the situation is better, but still many people are still struggling. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Voilà. But
since you got to leave, Pierre.
I'm gonna have to leave. Anindita, it was lovely to speak to you. Thank you very much, Davide. It was lovely to meet you.
But no, just before you leave,
yes.
What do we look forward to from Pierre?
Well, then I guess
in
this,
the way of your work.
Any message, anything you want to say, something?
Yeah,
just one thing, because I mentioned this film New Heights that I did during the pandemic. Actually, it's going to be available on Netflix, also in India, starting sometime this springtime. So then you're going to be able to, you can watch this film that we shot during the pandemic on Netflix in India sometime this springtime. I don't know the date yet, but it's going to come in a few weeks.
Spring here?
I will collect
spring
it.
In Europe, so next month.
Okay.
Next month, so in a few weeks. Shruti, thank you very much for organizing this talk. It was lovely, and take care. Yeah. And
great talking to you.
Speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Ho, 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 shadows and lights, shadows and light, this land should be joined, fight to keep it dark, shadows and lights. Ho, 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 shadows and lights, shadows and light, this land should be joined, fight to keep it dark, shadows and lights. When everybody's laughing, your mind will feel it sad, so don't think twice. When everybody's laughing, your mind will feel it sad, so don't think twice. So don't think twice, so don't think twice. Ho, 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 shadows and lights, shadows and light. This land should be clean, fight to keep it dark, shadows and light.
Ciao a tutti, sono Davide Piero Runcini e sto partecipando al World Vision Composer Contest. Sono l'unico italiano a essere arrivato in semifinale e per arrivare alla finale ho bisogno del vostro aiuto perché è l'ultimo turno di votazione solo pubblica, per cui vi invito ad andare ad ascoltare i miei 3 orchestra leader e a votare. Grazie. Ora vi dedico 2 brani per pianoforte solo. Buon ascolto.
I decided to give you a glimpse of the city. You must be missing a lot. I had just had some little bit of shooting of a film, and finally I get a little free time to sit and relax and talk to you.
Thank you.
with a cup of coffee. And yeah, well, after the whole pandemic, getting back to work, getting back to shooting, getting back to storytelling, that itself is a high. Don't need much of caffeine. A filmmaker is like a mother. She nurtures, gives birth to a child, and the child grows up, and then the umbilical cord is cut. So I have made several films. My films have received United Nations Gender Sensitivity Award. It has been, my first film was in the Oscars, but now I'm more concerned about the child, which I just gave birth, because she's a fledgling. She's still learning to walk. She's still not reached its audience. So that is why every 68 minutes is right now my baby. And I wish to take it to as many people as possible, because as I said, it's a very hard-hitting, real story. I mostly try to do films like this, stories which people do not make, stories people feel that will not be very financially viable, because people rather would sing and dance and fall in love. Even I would. But beyond falling in love is also a reality. And sometimes it is important when you have a language as powerful as cinema to use that language and tell those stories. So every 68 minutes tells a story of such a story, a true story of a young girl. Rest, I think my film will tell the rest of it.
Thank you.
একটা আলোর গান শোনাও না।
আলো আলো রং জং কালো চাঁদ ধুয়ে যায়, চেনা শোনা মুখ জানা শোনা হাত ছুঁয়ে যায়, ফিরে ফিরে ঘুম ঘিরে ঘিরে গান রেখে যায়, কিছু মিছু রাত পিছু পিছু টান ডেকে যায়, আজও আছে গোপন ফেরারি বেজে গেছে কখন সে